I'd take over the video to actually host two very good friends in the property world. So we've got Andi Cooke and Lloyd Girardi up next from Whitebox. If you've had anything to do with property development over the past few years and you don't know who Lloyd and Andi are, you've been living under a rock. I'm truly honoured that these two guys have agreed to come and obviously share an hour of their time with you to provide you with some kind of ultimate development kind of presentation, some information and knowledge, and share what they've learned. I mean, they've only actually been kind of doing developments in what, 2014 was it, guys? So I mean, if they share with you what they've learned over that 6 years, that really is invaluable. So over to you two, and thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Alice. It's been awesome. So just make sure everyone can hear me okay. Just make sure sound's working. Cool. Right. Let me share my screen 1 second. So hopefully everyone can see the screen. We have some breaking news. We have some development news coming in for you now. So this is what we're about. This is going to be the white box way. So yeah, welcome. I am Lloyd Girardi, and we have Andi here as well joining me.
Oh yeah, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you, mate.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be on such a great event, and yeah, thanks Alice for introducing us there, and Josh, both of you for putting this together. I think, you know, I echo what all the other speakers have said and will say over the whole weekend. You know, what a fantastic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we want to just thank you for inviting us to speak. Obviously, it is something we jumped at the chance to do. Obviously, it's a weird world we're in at the moment, so we've just got to adapt. We've got to change, but we've got to help and support those that are literally on the front line. And it's weird talking about front line. Normally, it's about the army and people going to war and risking their lives. They are risking their lives. I get that. And I think this is an amazing thing that we are doing and everyone's doing to support this. So down the bottom, I have got the links there. If you want to donate throughout this talk, I know you're at 50% of your target already. So I think you need to change your target tonight and up that, because I think you're going to smash the £10,000 that you're going to look to raise. So I know you're 5,000 already. So guys, if you can help at any point, please feel free to donate. So there's a bit.ly link at the bottom, so it's bit.ly/help the NHS. Okay, it's all lowercase, very simple, and go and donate, and it's yeah, a very worthy cause. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, we are property developing at the moment. This is something we've been doing. As Alice said, we haven't been doing it for years and years, but what we teach and what we go through and what we explain to people is what we have done in the past. And we know what works for us in the past. What we're looking to do in the future is we always underestimate the end goal. We're never trying to be too greedy. We're never trying to expect too much in developments, because things like this can happen and down valuations can happen, and I think will happen in the next few months, if not a year or so. So we are always anticipating a down valuation, which sometimes we don't win every site because of that. But I prefer to be a bit cautious going into a development than jumping straight into it.
I think, you know, the point that we're making there is there's always going to be something that goes wrong. It may not be COVID-19 all of the time. It may be that you hit contamination you weren't expecting, or as Lloyd says, you might get a down valuation, which is relatively common in the market. So if we're realistic about our prices right from the start and our figures, then whatever it is that comes up, then we're in a good position to cope with that.
Absolutely. I think what we want to do in this hour that we've got is answer as many questions as possible on 3 topics. Okay, so in the chat box, in the chat room, I've got it here so I can see them coming in, and we'll sort of look at them as they come in as well, and answer as many as we can. But there's 3 topics we want to sort of discuss today and talk about, and we'll give you some examples of how we're doing this and how we're coping in the situation we're in. The 3 topics we want to talk about are the potential development opportunities that are going to be coming up. So what are the opportunities in the next, or let's say in 2020? Okay, there are going to be opportunities. Okay, there's things that have stopped that won't happen, but what are the opportunities that will happen? Then we want to talk about what the current COVID constraints are. So obviously there are things that are happening in the market daily. I think things do get changed daily. So we're going to talk about potentially what is happening right now that may stop you doing what you may have thought about doing in the future. And then the other thing we want to talk about, and this is something we really we're proud to help people on this, is the mindset. And whether that's just mindset behind property in general, or health, wealth, and whatever you're thinking at the moment, but in terms of property and the discovery of the developments, what are you thinking right now? How can we help in the mindset? How can we help you maybe think more positively? And I've been listening to many of the speakers this morning as well. I know Sonny was on this morning talking about the mindset and keeping positive as well, which is awesome. So these are the three topics we want to talk about. So in the chat room, or in the comments, if you want to put anything in there, feel free to put in there. Alice, if you see any questions that we haven't asked and you feel that it's right to ask a question, feel free to chip in and ask that at any point as well. So let's start with the development opportunities. And if there's any questions on that, like I say, put them in there. But from what I see in the next few months, and especially towards the end of this year, is that there are going to be opportunities to purchase. And I say that because the market we're in is going down in value. Okay, things aren't happening, so demand isn't there, so prices generally drop. Okay, lenders aren't lending at the moment, which is we're going to come on to in a bit about the constraints that might be there. But the opportunities are that the prices on property and land in general is coming down. Okay, with land as a whole, what we found is probably 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 times out of 100 is more realistic, is that land is actually overestimated or overvalued by the seller. But this is something that I'm sort of discussing we've got a land sourcing academy happening at the moment, and this is what I've been discussing with the guys, that whenever you're selling something, you always put things higher than what you want. Okay, whenever you're buying something, you always start lower than what you can pay. Okay, so the fact that people see prices on the market, say a plot of land for £500,000, that's probably not what the actual seller wants for the land, or probably needs for the land more. It's probably what they want, but not what they need. So the negotiation part and how you can bring the sellers down to realistic expectations, I think, will become better in this year. So the opportunities to purchase, I think, is good. With developments, the opportunity to purchase on an option mitigates the risk of you not getting lending at this time as well. So you can agree the sale, you can agree that now, you can negotiate the price down, but you don't have to pay for it until next year or the year after. So I feel like buying a sofa from SCS. It's you kind of agree the deal now and you buy later or buy next year. So yeah, that's kind of what I see in the land side of opportunities.
So have you seen that question just come through, Lloyd? Sorry, Andy. Someone's just asked what the best way to source a land is for those development deals, either ones that you're looking to agree an option on or kind of find those real gems. What would you advise to people starting out in development?
So the one thing I would say, development is not the easiest strategy. Okay, it is challenging. It is going to test you mentally. I do believe anyone can do developments, but I don't think it is for everyone. And when I say that, because it tests people, because you'll have down days, probably more negative days than positive days, just because of the nature of what developments are. Those that can withstand the challenges and get through them, that's what developments are for. It's for you, those kind of people. For people that will hit a problem and kind of put their head in the sand and not solve it, you're going to come into sticky situations. You're going to get a bit stuck in that situation as well. So you've got to be able to adapt and move, just like we are in this year, but with developments in general, you've got to move as well. So in regards to the actual sourcing of sites, we teach it in 8 different ways. So we teach 8 different ways to find land opportunities. In fact, we teach 9 different ways to find land opportunities. For beginners, the easiest way to find plots of land, I believe, is on the council websites. They have a brownfield register, which highlights every single site that the council have highlighted that they need for development or think they could have developed or get developed. Some of those are built already. Okay, they might have been in the process of being built or have started or have got planning permission, or some of them don't even know they're on that brownfield register. So the owners might not even know they're on there. So it is a negotiation side at that point. The other way you can find land is, I believe, the better way and the more exciting way is looking on Google Maps, finding potential opportunities when you can, driving around, walking around, and spotting the opportunities as well. But with anything, education is kind of the key to doing something like this. And we teach people, but I'm not just saying that because we teach people. We're saying that to help people don't go into development without sort of understanding what you're getting into first.
I think if we look at not just finding the land, but look at the market that we're in at the moment, just to sort of maybe dig a little bit deeper as to what Lloyd was suggesting with the opportunities that are going to come out in this time. We've been teaching people for a long time, a good few years now, how to find opportunities the way that we find them. We've got an infrastructure around that, but what we've always said to people is that there's no point in when you're buying a plot of land or looking for an opportunity in a plot of land, it's completely a numbers game. So you have to go and find 100 sites to boil it down to the one that might be the right site and stacks up in the right way, especially in the times that we've been in the last couple of years. And you get people who going out to look for developments, and they've perhaps seen a plot of land that's around the corner that they walk by when they take the dog for a walk every day, and they're just so desperate for it to work that they'll cut the build cost down and they'll try and offer a bit more. But in effect, it could be for the constraints of the site or the expectation of the vendor that site's just never going to work. It's never going to stack up the figures, and they're putting themselves in an awkward position if they pay too much for it. So what we teach and what Lloyd teaches in his land sourcing academy is that you go and find 100 opportunities, and then you boil them down, and a third of those you'll get rid of straight away in the first process, and there's a system of processes that you go through, and eventually you're looking to just get one at the end of it that works, and you can go and buy. Now, what we've had in the past couple of years, and we can see now that we're in the middle of this this pandemic, is we've had a market, if you like, which when I've spoken to a couple of people, I've likened to probably where we were in sort of 2005, 2006, maybe 2000, early 7, where the vendors it was a seller's market. It's been a seller's market. Our guys are going out there and they're finding 100 opportunities, and they're getting a bit despondent because they're, as we've said, we'd always like to offer a realistic amount so that we've got some contingency in there, and we're being realistic about end values in case something goes wrong. So they found it very difficult to get offers accepted. What this is going to do, and is already doing, is making those vendors more realistic. So, there's going to be more pressure on them to sell. There's going to be less people banging on their door. In the last couple of years, they've been expecting that if they don't accept your offer, well, someone else will come along tomorrow and they'll probably give me what I want anyway. So there's been a lot less motivation for them to accept an offer if they think it's lower. This is going to flip it on its head. There's going to be a lot more stock on the market because businesses are going to have to release assets to keep afloat and to keep their staff working and to, not go under. There's going to potentially be less people who are lining up to buy it because, there's a lot of people who will sit out there in uncertain times like this and think, well, I'll wait 6 months, maybe a year, and just see when the market settles or gets to the lowest point. And, so they perhaps won't be at the forefront to be a competitor, if you like. And I think that, especially when we came into this environment where we went into lockdown, a lot of people were talking about the morals of putting offers in and, making something out of the opportunity. But actually, if you look at it from the other side, you can be offering a vital lifeline to some of those businesses who need that cash injection to, keep their businesses running. So I think that, you shouldn't see it as you're being mercenary. You're helping them out in these tough times too.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about offers, we've had a question in which says, when you make an offer on land, do you have a matrix to judge what percentage of the advertised price you're going to offer? We always offer based on what we can pay for the site. And we never, if anything, I try and ignore what the actual selling price is or the advertised price. And I always do my numbers, my calculations based on what we can pay for the site. And I think you've got to do that. Okay, don't buy with your heart. As Andy said, you get fixed on a site too much because you want to make it work, because you think it's right next to you, it's in your doorstep or on your doorstep, and you want to develop it. Don't buy with your heart, and just always buy with your head, and make sure that
Lloyd,
you are happy.
you must be wrong, because I've had different vendors tell me, and different agents, commercial agents, who told me that it's third. It's third for your build costs, third for your profit, and third for the land. So it's got to be true, because I've heard that loads of times. So you're wrong. You must be wrong.
So you've heard that from an agent? Brilliant.
I've heard that from numerous commercial agents, mate. Yeah, so it's got to be true.
They're the best. They're the ones that don't get back to you, and they never respond to what you put an offer in for $1 million, and they never come back to you, and they don't even tell you if it's accepted or not.
Yeah, but they're the professionals in the industry, mate. They must know what they're talking about.
Absolutely not. Based on that, then don't assume the third. Okay, we hear that all the time. Price on how much you pay for land, what percentage of the GDV do you pay for land? Developments are not like that at all, because every single site is completely different. Okay, the councils have different criteria in terms of how you can build or how many you can build. It depends on the size of the property, it depends on the location, everything. So we don't have a matrix of what against a percentage against the asking price. We always offer based on what we can pay for the site. And if that is 50% lower than the asking price, I will still make the offer, but I'll put it in a way that I actually explain why I can pay that price. Okay, I don't just put an email to the vendors or the agents to say my offer is $1 million. I'll explain that my offer is $1 million based on the current market, based on comparables recently, and potentially down valuations in the future. And I'll put that in there. I can put overages in there, but for this conversation, this talk, I'm not going to talk about overages and what they are and how you can put them in. But you can put overages in there. So if the values of the properties don't go down in value, you can pay the landowner more for the site than you can at the beginning. So you can pay them more at the back end, basically. But in terms of making offers, you always put the offer based on what you can pay, and don't forget about what other people might pay for the site. Another point on there is a site may sell, and a lot of people will then spend maybe 2 or 3 days analysing why that site sold, and why it sold for more than what you could pay for. Don't do that. Okay, you've wasted 2 or 3 days finding another deal, and if you're only relying on one deal anyway, you're not doing it in the right manner either. So other people have different motives to buying sites. I know builders they're not bothered about the profit they'll make on the development. They're more interested in keeping their guys going, keeping the build side and build contracts coming in, and getting the profit from that way. So always just stick to your guns and offer based on what you can pay for the site. But again, it goes down to the education of how you make the offer in the first place.
I think on that point though, pipelining is so important in developments, isn't it, Lloyd? And as we're saying that you've got, we're teaching people to go out and find 100, 200. In fact, Lloyd's land sourcing academy that he started up right at the start of when we went into lockdown. It's an 8-week program that he started to give people the tools in this changing environment to be able to go out and not only know the ways how to find these opportunities and to put the pipeline together of 100, 200 sites, but also an accountability station where they can all keep themselves accountable to go out and do the work. So Lloyd's, the first couple of weeks, set them homework. So he taught them a way of using Google Maps and things like that, all the things that everyone's got access to go and find 100 sites, 100 opportunities in the first week. And then the second week showed them another way and got them to do another 100. So everyone's got a pipeline of 200 opportunities, and then started filtering them out to start looking at which ones work, which ones don't work, which ones that we can even think about putting offers into and all that kind of stuff. But the point of that is that you have to find that pipeline at the start. Now, all the guys who we've been teaching for a while have had pipelines from those more tough times, when it was a much more of a vendor's market. Now they're in a great position because they've got that pipeline to go back to. And there's one thing for sure, the motivation of those vendors, not all of them maybe, but a lot of them is changing, and their expectation is changing. So because of the nature of the environment that we're in, but they've already got a head start. So I think, in fact, I'm going to throw this back to you, Lloyd, but the question I'd say is, what would you say about, those people who are saying, well, I'll just sort of sit back for 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe even 12 months to let the market bottom out, get to its lowest point, then I'll start looking, and I'll start, I'll start developing those opportunities. Then where's that in your mind?
I honestly think you'll be behind. I think there'll be sites that are being snapped up now, and don't get me wrong, there will be sites later on, but you'll pay more for it, okay? Because when we sort of get out of this, and I listened to Jackie Tomes earlier about the curve going up and the increase and the valuations coming back up. I do think there will be a slight up and increase in the values going up, because people will then have more confidence. At the moment, people don't know when this is going to end, so they're cautious. But when we're out of this kind of weird environment we're in, and people are starting to lend again, and people are starting to value again, there will be people buying again. So at that point, prices will start increasing. They'll take its time, but if you're not pipelining now, you're not going to get the opportunities in 6 to 9 months. It's not an overnight thing to purchase land anyway. So it will take you not 6 to 9 months potentially to actually purchase a site. It could take longer. Okay, so you've got to negotiate now when the prices are at their lowest. So this is why I started the Land Sourcing Academy as soon as this sort of came in. We do face-to-face training. We obviously can't do that at the moment. So the obvious thing I wanted to do was online training, which we'd never done before. We're not ones that have had online training for ages, but we've had the knowledge to be able to do it. And the land sourcing, I think, is a key point to starting developments. And that's all I want to teach for 8 weeks. And it's an 8-week course that we're doing. We're not here to sort of advertise and sell it. We're here to give you some advice and tips. But the tips for this year are start with land sourcing. Okay? Just start with the one thing and start building that pipeline up. Just to finish off this, and then we'll go into the COVID constraints. Someone was asking about, do we have a checklist of what we go through before we make an offer? We do, yeah. We have a set checklist. Before the offer, it's quite vague, and because we don't know anything yet until we have some sort of offer accepted. So in a kind of not unprecedented, in a different way, we make an offer before we have sort of any full due diligence on the site, which is weird. A lot of people think, oh, you can't do it that way. But what we want to do is just get our foot in the door and not waste any of our time trying to analyze a deal we don't know we're going to win yet. Okay, so that's what we're doing. It's subject to planning, subject to full site appraisal. So we're mitigating the risk there. Okay, so let's move on to some constraints. And Andy, you've dealt with some of these for some of our sites. So what do you see as constraints coming into the market at the moment?
So I just leading on from what you were saying there, actually, about the pipeline and the fact that it's going to take sort of maybe 6 to 9 months or 4 to 6 months to get your offer and your.
Hi, sorry, guys, it's frozen, I think, for a few people. So we're just going to have a look at that and just see why it's frozen. Yeah, it's frozen for people. So we'll just sort that out.
Okay.
Because I think people are saying on Facebook, yeah, that it's frozen. So Josh is over at the iMac sorting that out now.
No
worries. Yeah, it came up on mine actually that it was frozen, and that that it was an
yeah, it says
issue.
on mine, broadcast interrupted.
Oh, how dare they? That's a constraint in the COVID market right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's our video playing, is it?
It still says broadcast. No, it says this live video is ended, Joshua. Right. Let me just see. Oh, for goodness sake. I can't see a new live at the moment, Josh. Oh yeah, just now. You're live now. Right, a new live is now started, guys. So we're just going to wait for a few people to join the live again. Yeah, we're back. No, so everybody's saying that we're back. We're coming back up now. So yeah, everybody's joining again.
Okay.
I will share this new live. So whilst I'm sharing that, if you two want to kind of obviously continue with what you were speaking about, sorry to have interrupted you.
No, that's absolutely. Right. We want to make sure people get the content. So we'll reverse a little bit and we'll rewind. So Andy, where do you see in the COVID constraints at the moment?
Okay, so yeah, basically Lloyd was just talking about now's the right time to be looking for your, going through your pipelines, and the principles of the fact that even if you get an offer accepted today or this week or this month, then it's going to take you minimum 4 to 6 months to get that deal through, and probably more like 6 to 9 months. So with developments, there's always that kind of lag, and that's probably in the best of times, realistically, let alone whilst we're in lockdown and we're in this sort of weird period where no one can really progress as quickly as possible, or as they normally would do. So so that's why this is the right time to do it. Now, specifically on that, there's been a COVID-19 sort of caveat into the RICS surveys. So the surveys, RICS surveys RICS is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and it's the sort of governing body, if you like, for surveyors and valuers. So anyone in developments, especially anyone who's going doing big commercial sites, will be sort of RICS affiliated. And RICS, the governing body, about probably 3 weeks ago now, whilst we were in lockdown, they sent a mail shot out or an email to all of their surveyors, and they said that they wanted them to put a statement into all of their surveys and valuations, which was probably 2 paragraphs long, or is 2 paragraphs long, and it states that the day that that was produced is pretty much the only time that it can be relied on, and that it's got sort of a heavy caveat to say that that after that day the market fluctuating in these times very quickly, so they can't really be relied on. Now, a valuer is backed up by their PI insurance, and this is kind of a hangover, if you like, from the 2007-2008 financial crisis, where a lot of those valuers, when the valuations dropped quite rapidly, they got sued against their PI insurance. So ever since that, even in the climate before COVID, there was a sort of a very belt and braces backup to valuations. So it was always checked by 2 or 3 of their superiors, and it would only be released if they were very sure of the value. So hence why we cover for down valuations quite a lot, even in the market before this. With the COVID caveat on there as well, that's made that a lot stronger. And we had a sale going through, for example, which just couldn't get through because it was a pension fund that was buying it. And with that caveat on there, it just made it against their sort of processes, if you like, to be able to complete on that. And it would have put them a bit too exposed, if you like, if anything would have gone wrong in the future. So that is going to make it very difficult, especially in lockdown, to get sales through. So hence why, if you're getting offers accepted now, as we come out of lockdown, that will no doubt be reviewed and possibly lightened, if not removed. And so you're going to be 6 months before you really complete on those deals. So activity now will get you those first deals through. If you start waiting for 6 months, that's going to take you then potentially another 6 months on at the back end of it. There is still when we had the Brexit, when we were fully into Brexit, I know we're still in Brexit, it's never been resolved, but it's not really our big thing at the moment with COVID around. But there was a caveat similar to that with Brexit, but it wasn't strong enough to stop a lot of pension company funds and the specific issues that we're seeing now. So what we're hoping will happen at the end of this is that the COVID statement will be lightened to still allow those transactions to go through. That's a specific one to the sort of valuation process. But Lloyd, what else have we got actually for as COVID constraints?
Yeah, I think obviously viewings. We can't do viewings at the moment, or can't. I know people are still going out there doing viewings, but I personally think we just need to stay at home and not do them at all. But with land developments, you can offer without doing a viewing. And I can't remember the last time I actually went to a site to offer. The beauty of Google Maps is you can do a lot of the location searching on Google as well. But you put subject to a full site appraisal. That can include a site visit as well if you need to go and do a site visit. Obviously, lenders aren't lending at the moment on new applications. So I think with the constraints, there are positives to it as well. The fact that we're helping a lot of our students and masterminders at the moment who have had offers accepted pre-COVID, and we're just helping them just bump that down the road. And it is, I think, what is good about this, I suppose, not good in a way, but everyone is in the same boat. Okay, this is not something that is unique to you. You can basically say that this is completely beyond our control. So any exclusivities they had for a certain period of time are being extended. Okay, so people are being they're being flexible and moving on and helping sort of people. So some of our students have got exclusivities running out to a certain point in May. So we're pushing them on to the end of August and helping them with that. So I think you've got to just see and move with the times as well. And this is just one of the challenges that we'll face, and it's one that no one could have predicted really. So I get the obviously the time. So what I want to move on to a bit more is more the mindset behind current situations. How are people feeling? So if we can sort of go to mindset questions, anything you've got based on the mindset and things, how can we help you in that sense? So I'll just have a quick look in the chat and see what's coming in. So Sheila's lost YouTube. So Michael, how you started would be good to know. I'm just starting my journey, and any insight to your beginnings would be useful. So yeah, no, we can talk about that. I know a lot of people know our story, but I get there's probably a lot of new faces on here, so sort of welcome if you heard us for the first time. We started in 2014. To give you a quick kind of guide through what happened and how we started. Andy had a building company since 2007 called Red Box Developments. I was working for an LED lighting sales team, and I basically went to Andy, as he was my cousin-in-law. He was building a new house in 2012, 2013. And I basically approached him and said, look, can I design the lighting for your house? I thought it was an easy customer, being a family member. So I did the lighting for his house sort of towards the end of 2013. And it was the same time that Andy was looking into getting into property developing or property investing more. And he approached me towards sort of the end of the year, December, and just said, I've got 2 free tickets to this 3-day event. Are you interested in coming along and looking into property? And at that time, I was sort of certain things happened in my life that I had a mindset shift myself, and it was perfect timing at that point. We got educated in January 2014, and we jumped straight into a development. Okay, foolish or not, or naive or not, but I think the naivety helped us at the beginning because we didn't know some of the stuff that we probably would have talked ourselves out of. But we started with 8 2-bed townhouses. We raised all the money to purchase the plot of land from family friends. And then we basically got 100% development finance from a lender to develop the property out. We spent £810,000 in total, none of which I didn't put any money myself. I didn't have any money myself. And we refinanced that site because it got valued at 1.2 million at the end. And we refinanced on a commercial mortgage for 890,000, which paid back our total spend, paid back our investors, paid back our development finance and the interest accrued on that. And we were left with 8 houses, which were cash flowing gross about £6,500 a month, net about £3,500 a month. And we just started from there. And that was the first site we ever did was completed with 2015. And that was 8 houses. We've completed about £20 million worth of property development. Number wise, I think is 96 units. But we've got another, I think it's about 120 odd in the pipeline ourselves. And we've got deals that we've negotiated down from £1 million to sort of 350 quid. 350,000, sorry. So we started very, very small in terms of developments. But sometimes people might think that's starting quite big. But that's kind of how we started. So hopefully the mindset behind that is great. And just to plug it, because I can, I wrote a book in 2018 called Property Development by myself, Lloyd Girardi. It's on Amazon, it's on Audible, and that explains the whole of our sort of first 4 years of getting into it with some practical knowledge for you guys as well.
I think actually just on to support that when Alice introduced us here, she said that we were, relatively new into developments ourselves, with the fact that we only started in 2014. A lot's happened in those 5, maybe 6 years, and we've gone through lots of ups and downs, and we've learned a lot on the tools, if you like, by doing developments ourselves. And we've done lots of pub conversions. We've done 8 houses up to 11 houses to we've got 6 sites on at the moment, which is 18 flats, 12 houses, a couple of smaller 4-house sites. We've got commercial conversions with 70 odd flats in which are in the pipeline, and we're doing. And so we've done lots of different variations. We've done serviced accommodation, we've done single buy-to-lets, HMOs. We've got a very broad and varied experience in that time of that 4 or 5 years, or 5 or 6 years, sorry now. But the beauty of it is we're not, we've got the experience from it, and we've done it ourselves. We've taught people to do it for a long time, which is a great way to hone your own skills as well by teaching someone else. And we've definitely benefited from that. But we're not too far away from you guys if you're starting in developments, or even thinking of starting in developments, to still be, I suppose, accessible or relatable. So, we've not been around it like Taylor Wimpey or Persimmon Homes for tens of years, and we're too far down the road for you guys to relate to. We are only a few years ahead of you, and there's no reason why, if you took the steps that we did, but cleaned up some of the processes we did, because we learned by banging our head against the brick wall a lot of the time, and then working out not to do that and do it a different way. There's no reason, if you clean those processes up, that you couldn't do the same sort of thing in a much shorter time scale even. So I think, there's a good thing. And Lloyd said about his book there's been some great feedback over the last few years about how that takes people through the whole process of exactly how we started, right from the mindset in the early days through to having, I don't know if it's probably, you said 96 units there, but that's only the ones which are completely finished and out. Obviously we're on site on 6, so there's probably about 180, 190 units including those. Plus that doesn't include all the ones that we've got agreed deals with and in for planning and all sorts of other things. So it takes you through all that process to get to that point. So I think that if you've not really heard us speak before, that would be a great point to start on, to see what White Box is all about, really.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of questions that come in, one specifically to land sourcing tool. So there's a couple of options on Land Insight and Nimbus. We've used both. I think if you've got either of them, you are at a slight advantage than most people, because it is a great tool to be able to find and get a lot of information on sites very quickly. You can do what Nimbus and Land Insight can do for free, but you're going to be looking at 20, 30 different websites to get the information that can bring you in sort of minutes. So either are good. Price point, one is 6 times the price of the other one. So for us, we're currently using Nimbus, and we're actually working alongside the guys at Nimbus and helping them develop their program, their software, to help other people as well. And those guys are developers as well. So they know kind of what developers look for in terms of assessing sites as well. So in terms of development tools, either are great, but yeah, it's entirely up to you what you want to look at using.
Okay, and also on top of that, there's some software coming out which is called My PDA, and I think on Sunday at about 5 o'clock you've got Claire Sheehan coming to speak to you about My PDA. So if it's not something you've come across before, stick that in your diary to be online and listening at 5 o'clock on Sunday, and she'll be showing you how it can help you not only find and set up your pipelines to find the sites, but it also does a lot more than that. It helps you identify comparables in your area and set up pipelines, and keeps track of all of what you're doing, and helps you go through quick deal analysis, and it's got an app which is going to be released in the next couple of weeks for your phone as well. So yeah, it's a really good piece of software that we're certainly using, and a lot of our masterminders are using too.
Okay, Sandy's asked, in a downturn in land prices, would you look to develop yourself if you already own the site rather than selling it for less? Yeah, so it depends on how much you bought it for, but you've I suppose you've got to look at how much is it going to be worth at the end. Is it actually worth you developing now? If it doesn't owe you anything on that site, it's probably worth holding on to it for a year and then starting to develop. So hopefully the GDVs, which is the gross development value, that's the end value of sites. Hopefully that will increase and make the profit that you maybe expected in the first place. So I wouldn't jump straight into it if the end values aren't high enough at this point. So they probably have come down in value. How much we don't know at the moment, and how much they will come down to in the future, we don't know at the moment. So we can have a guess, we can anticipate. Depends on how much profit you expected in it as well. So if you're happy just to develop it out and get the money back for the site you purchased, or make 5%, fine, do that. But I wouldn't recommend going into a site with only 5% profit in it, because I can pretty much guarantee you won't end with 5% profit. You'll probably cost you money in the long run. Which kind of goes on to a question that Stephen asked about, can we give specifics on how we finance the development project and any unexpected costs to watch out for? And he also said, great presentation, guys. So no, I appreciate that. I think the best one to explain, Andy, is the first one. The first deal is probably the easiest to explain, and some of the costs involved or unexpected costs in there, really. So to start with, the way we purchased it was, like I say, we borrowed money personally between me and Andy from family members and friends of family members as well, which we purchased for £157,000. We then got 100% development finance from a company called Funding Circle, which I know a lot of people know. In 2014, they were developing for developers. Oh, sorry, but they were lending for developers. They don't do that now, unfortunately. But there are other sort of lenders out there doing development loans just like they were. So we borrowed, it's about £750,000 or so. The interest on top was about £810,000, sort of rounded up. So that was our total cost. Some of the unexpected costs in there is we did have copper was stolen on site as well, wasn't it, Andy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. There's a few things that, there's always going to be odd anomalies that happen on any site. Little break-ins and things like that. But yeah, we had one guy came on site one day and he scratched onto the composite black doors that he was the devil man, if you remember, with a little picture of the devil, didn't he? So yeah, what can you do? The devil man visited us. But we had some cabling nicked, we had some copper piping nicked, and the odd thing like that. But that's kind of what I was saying at the start of this talk, that there's always going to be something that goes wrong in developments. We mitigate it as much as possible. We put security in, we put as many mitigations in, like I say, as possible. But the fact is something's going to happen somewhere along the line. So we try and also cost that in with contingencies. And do you remember there was a guy who came through our training course, the Property Developers Secrets, probably about 2 years after we finished that site. So that site was called St James, or Tandem Court, it was named at the end. A guy came through our training, and we were going through, we had the slides up explaining all the costs and everything like that. And he sat there and he looked a bit annoyed, to be honest, and we sort of said to him, what's the matter? And he said, do you know what, I had that site agreed before you obviously got it, and before, because we picked it up from auction, before you got it at auction, I had it agreed and we were going through the sale, but I talked myself out of it. And we said, well, why did you talk yourself out of it? He said, because I was so worried about the drainage, and because it was an old garage site and it was a hard standing, and I just couldn't get my head round how the drainage and how much it was going to cost, and I was worried it was going to cost more than I was predicting. So I let the site go, and obviously we went and bought it and we developed the site. And he said, just out of interest, did you have problems with the drainage? What were the costs with that? I said, we never had any issues with drainage. It wasn't a cost extra or anything like that, but he worried himself so much he talked himself out of it. And with development, you can do that with, there's 100 different aspects that you can talk yourself out of it, isn't there? And we just didn't worry about that part of it, and we did it along with our costings and whatever. But we probably didn't know 100% what the drainage was going to cost, like he didn't. But we didn't let it stop us. Now, interestingly, it wasn't the next site. A couple of sites later, the next day we were talking, and we showed another site we'd just purchased, and he had the same with that as well. He said, I saw that site, I had that, basically I had that offer not quite agreed, but I pulled out because there's another cost that he wasn't sure about. And I think that over the weekend, we're on the mindset section, he realised that, you know, he needed to sort of, he had a problem where he couldn't push himself over to commit to the site. And since then, I'm pleased to say that he's done a couple of sites, and we know, you know, we haven't seen him for a while, but we're still in touch. And you know, it was just a mindset barrier that he had, if you like, to actually commit and complete a deal.
So in terms of the unexpected costs, that's kind of what contingencies are in for, or we put contingencies in developments for. You can never exactly cost out a development. You can't get the exact figure. There will be things that will come up. So you've got to be prepared that challenges will come up. We said at the beginning of the presentation, developments aren't going to be the easiest strategy to do. They can be the most rewarding, whether that is physically, mentally. I know the last sort of 6 years, myself personally, I've grown as a character, not in height, unfortunately, but grown in character-wise. And I know my positivity mindset has changed massively, just by kind of proving that I can do property, I can borrow money off other people, I can sort of do developments without using any of my own money. So it's always, you've got to go through the process to understand and learn from yourself as well. A lot of people just won't start for the fear really. So people, like I say, don't start because they don't want to hit the challenges. But you've got to hit the challenges. If you're going to succeed and be rewarded, you're going to have to go through the challenges itself. So yeah, massive sort of mindset thing to get over is you are going to get the challenges.
I think as well, something which probably people will relate to, Lloyd, is, you know, that first site, like you said, you know, we didn't use our own money, we didn't have our own money to use, and there'll be a lot of people in that situation. And, you know, developments aren't something that you should look at in a light-hearted manner. You know, there's a lot of money in a development transacted. It's not just a single buy to let or even a HMO or whatever. You know, there is going to be a purchase price. There's going to be development funds throughout it, and you're playing with potentially quite a lot of money with it. And people sort of think that that's maybe a complete barrier to entry to not do it. And, you know, we're proof that that's not the case, but it shouldn't be taken lightly. That is definitely for sure. But our mindset at the time was, you know, we couldn't see why anyone would lend us 50 quid, let alone, you know, 157,000 to buy a plot of land, which was 23 derelict garages in the middle of Northampton in quite a bad area. But we only overcame that by actually taking it face on and going to speaking to people. And, you know, we thought, we bought it at auction, so we had 28 days to complete. And, you know, we failed. We didn't get that money in 28 days, did we? You know, we had to find 157,000 in 28 days. And, you know, we didn't get that. We found 50 relatively quickly in maybe a week or so, maybe 10 days, but we didn't find the rest. And we had to pull the ripcord with 10 days to go. And we got a bridging loan, which when we bought that auction, we didn't even know what a bridging loan was. You know, so we learned quickly by talking to people and speaking to people who were around us, and we got the bridging loan. It brought us an extra 6 months to find the money. We found it within the next couple of months, got off the bridging loan within the 3 months, and, you know, owned the site with private funds, which was the original idea. Now, you know, but we ascertained the problem, we hit the problem head on, we failed solving it, found another route around it, then did solve it, then got back to our original route. And you know what, that's just what developments are, isn't it? That is 100% a great example of what developments are. You get hit by different problems daily and you have to circumvent them and find a different route, and then, you know, reinvent yourself every few days, really, and whatever. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think the word development is not just the actual development of the building, but I think development of you as a person, character of you as well. So no, it's certainly rewarding, I must say, at the end of it. Just come to some other questions. Is Jason saying, what do you think will be the lowest hanging fruit in the coming months when it comes to development sites to get higher conversions to deals stacking up? The hanging fruit is probably the stuff that's on the market or was on the market before COVID, so you can sort of see how long things have been on the market for. I think the lowest hanging fruit are people that need to sell, so they're motivated sellers. So the fact that they had it on the market to sell, some of them may take it off, and they probably have taken it off if they don't need the money for it. But the ones I think are still on the market can be snapped up. again, as we said in well, earlier in the conversation, in the presentation, before we crashed the internet, that the sites itself, there are going to be motivated people, and there will be chances to purchase, just not right now. Potentially the lending isn't there. Bridging lenders are still lending, so you can bridge the purchase if you buy at a decent price, but just be wary of the exit on a bridging finance and don't be on that for too long. But get an option on the plot of land and maybe buy it next year or this time next year. The options can be sort of put on there for kind of the length of time that you want on there. But yeah, I think you've got to just start that pipeline. You've got to be putting the offers in based on what you can pay for the site only. So
I think going forward, just to elaborate on that a little bit, from my point of view, I think also, you know, there's going to be a lot of businesses who are going to be struggling. They're going to get liquidators and receivers in. So maybe not immediately today, but over the next month or 2 months, 3 months, you know, you should be looking at auctions when we come out of this, and there'll be online auctions now. It's not receivers and liquidators' jobs to develop properties or anything like that. They just need to sort of try and get the values for the banks. So they'll be sort of trying to get the quickest, best route to sell those kind of assets. So yeah, definitely look at those kind of outlets as well.
Justine's asked what we think of HMOs in the current situation. We have got HMOs. I'm not up to date with all the HMO rules and regulations, to be honest, because we did them 2014-15. We haven't done them since, and it's not a strategy we are sort of pursuing and doing in depth. So I wouldn't want to answer that question. For me, they serve a purpose for what we did and what we needed it for, but it's not something we're looking at going forward. So sorry to not answer that question, but I wanted to sort of bring it up and go through it anyway.
We've got a couple of people coming on Sunday, Marie Ellis and Georgia Smallwood, who do a lot of HMOs, and kind of that's their specific strategy. So I think if you've got any questions regarding HMOs, tune in on Sunday evening. I think it's 4 o'clock, but just check on the listing, and they'll be able to help more with HMO strategy. Brilliant.
Yeah, and again, it's an awesome thing you guys are putting on, and the list of speakers were phenomenal. So sort of kudos for putting this together, and in a very short space of time as well. Couple of other points. Rajesh has said, what's the minimum investment needed for property development? I think the only investment required from you to start with is the education. So I know some people have borrowed money to do education, but to invest in yourself, I think only you can invest in that personally. From there, we can show you and teach you how to do this without any of your own money, because it's something that we have done time and time again as well. So it definitely is possible. Rajesh also put, how do I attract joint venture partners or property investors for my first property development? Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Everyone's got to start somewhere. In anything you do, you've got to do something for the first time, and the way you can get experience for the first time is to borrow experience. And what I mean by that is potentially joint venturing with people that have experience. So for me, when I first started with Andi, I didn't have any build experience. So my borrowing was on Andi's track record as a builder. There's a lot that I could add to the party in terms of, I had a mortgage, I wasn't a mortgage broker, but I worked for a mortgage brokerage. So I had I knew what to talk about when it looked at the mortgage side, and I worked for Taylor Wimpey selling houses in 2006. So I've got new build experience in that capacity, but just not in the build side. So I didn't get involved in that, and Andi didn't really get involved in this rental side at the end, or the mortgage side sort of throughout the development either. So you can borrow track record, you can obviously borrow money, you can so joint ventures to start with, and don't be afraid to give more away at the beginning. So when we're talking mindset, don't try and like make the most money from the first site. Okay, you've got to get the first site to get track record to do a better site. One of the questions we get asked all the time is what is our best site? And it will always be the first site we ever did. Yeah, it won't be the best in terms of the numbers, but it's the best because it then allowed us to springboard onto what we're doing now. And we always could relate back to that site, having done and completed it. And then every site then just adds to the portfolio and adds to the experience.
I think, yeah, look, I definitely agree with that. I think that, just as a little caveat to that is that we're not telling you to go out and just buy a site for the sake of it to get experience and not have a profit margin in there. Because like we said earlier, you've got to mitigate against the risk that there's going to be something going wrong. So it still has to have profit, but it might not be. We get people who come in who think they're going to go and do one site and then retire to some sunny Necker Island beach or something like the rest of their lives. But developments is a much longer term strategy. And what Lloyd's saying there, which I totally agree with, is that, don't be scared to still have the profit margin that you wanted on a site, but maybe share that with a builder instead of just contracting them a 20% profit margin in their building company. Maybe offer them 50% of the profit on the development itself, but you can leverage their experience like Lloyd did with me. So you can get into developments by using their experience. You both get to do better than just get a profit margin on the job or on the project, and then you can leapfrog onto your next one, which by that time you've got your own experience, so it puts you in a much better position.
Yeah, absolutely. So just looking at time, I know it's coming up to 3 o'clock. Alice has just put on here that we've it's been extended till 3:10 because we crashed the internet like the Kardashians did. So I'm not putting ourselves in the same boat as them, but yeah, it seemed to.
Mate, you've got as bigger ass as the Kardashians, haven't you? All put together.
I have, to be honest. Yeah, it's a big booty. But I don't know why we're talking about that when we're talking developments. But anyway, so I just want to sort of finish off with kind of opportunities that you guys have got to get involved with us. And obviously, we are going online. This is something a lot of people have done. I've seen negative posts about people starting up online training, but we've been doing this for sort of a few years now anyway. We know what we're talking about and what we're teaching. So I've got no problem with people starting online courses. It's something you've got to do and adapt in the current climate. So for us, obviously the Land Sourcing Academy we mentioned is available. So that is something that the way it works is an 8-week program. You can start today and you basically get drip fed the information over 8 weeks. So week 1, as Andy mentioned earlier, is all about finding 100 sites, and I only teach you one way to find that the first 100 sites. Week 2 is all about finding your next 100 sites. So you'll have, after 2 weeks, 200 sites, and you've got 14 days to do that. And then week 3 is all about appraising a deal, calculating the deal, making sure it works. Week 4 is about offering. Week 5 is about funding, which Alice is on this weekend on Sunday. So we're going to talk about how to fund land developments and how to fund developments in general. Week 6 is about promotional agreements, lockouts, options, land assemblies. Where we're on 7 is about planning. So John McDermott, who's on today, who is a legend and a whiz. So if you haven't heard of John, make sure you tune into that as well. And he's going to be talking about how to maximise sites using planning to benefit as well. And then finally, week 8 is how to package that site up to potentially sell on, or how to develop that site and go into the next steps going forward. So it's 8 weeks. It's every video gets sent to you in a week. So kind of you purchase now and you can buy that. You'll get the next one next week, and 14 days, the next video will come out. So it's very much a step-by-step. You learn in your own time. But the guys that are on it currently, they are doing the 200 sites. They are going through the appraisals, and we're in the process at the moment making offers on site. So that's kind of a snapshot of what the Land Sourcing Academy is all about. And then this is what is coming up with Andy and our project manager, Nick.
Yeah, I think that, we're always looking to what people need to help them relevantly in the market. Now, I said that Lloyd was really quick with the Land Sourcing Academy once he knew we were going into lockdown. Predominantly, we've always trained people for the last 3 or 4 years face to face. Alice comes and speaks at our Property Developers Secrets course. We'll traditionally get 40 to 50 people in a room, probably 8 times a year. And we've got a great community at the back of that. We have masterminds and retreats and things like that. But obviously that's not relevant at the minute. We're all stuck in our own houses, and we can't get in front of people and have that the same community spirit that we've always had. So Lloyd jumped on, created the Land Sourcing Academy for all the reasons we've spoken about in this talk. But we then put out to our whole community and to the development world, if you like, well, what is it that people need from us? You know, we can't go out like anyone else. And resoundingly, it was about project management. You know, they wanted to understand how they can cost up sites. So everything from all your pre-planning and all your costs to put your offer in, to then site setup, working with your planning conditions and releasing all of those, and to getting all of the prices that you need from all your subcontractors and all your packages to be able to cost up a site properly, and then to run everything, to run the whole site to completion. And even at that point, working on your exit finances and how you're going to either sell or to refinance is the word I'm looking for. So that's the project manager works throughout the whole thing. So we work, you can see me on that picture, but you can also see our project manager Nick leading. Nick's experiences, he does look scary. We both look a bit scary, to be fair, but Nick looks particularly scary, like he's just killed people and he's going to bury them in that site behind. But he came through our training. He's worked for Taylor Wimpey for 11 years before we even met him. So he knows how to run sites with hundreds of houses at a time, and had done for years. So all of that Taylor Wimpey structure and planning, and he'd been brought up by one of the big house building companies. So basically we've put all that together and we've created a masterclass basically, which has got 50 plus modules to take you through all of the things that you need to do to be able to run a site effectively. Now, one of the big benefits of that is if you can run the site yourself and project manage it yourself, is you can get paid from day one on the site, because there's going to be a section in your build costs for project management. So it's a cash flowing way that you can actually pay yourself out the drawdowns legitimately. It's not you trying to siphon money out or anything like that. If you're actually doing the job and you know how to do it, and you've got all of the infrastructure around you and the paperwork to be able to do it properly, then you can pay yourself that wage too. So that's not actually released yet. We're still forming it, and if you're interested in that, there's a bit.ly/whitebox PMM2020 link. Now that'll register your interest. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, as it gets released, we'll contact you and see. You're not buying it here and then. We'll just contact you to see if that's of interest still.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of options there. You've got land sourcing available to you now, and then the project management masterclass will be about 2-3 weeks away, which we're currently building. There's 50 modules you'll get in one hit, which you can then go through individually at your own time and get and understand more the project management side and what it takes to manage a project as well. So there's a couple of options, which we'll put those links in the chat anyway. But we want to sort of get back to and answering some of your questions as well. So
I think just before we move on to the questions, Lloyd, one of the best things there is you've actually got Nick speaking, Alice, this afternoon, haven't you? I think he was due to be just before 4 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, Nick's up at 15:45, and then we've actually got another member of your power team. We've got John on at 16:30 as well. So
Excellent.
It's a white box afternoon.
It is, yeah. So these guys are a really big part of what we do. Obviously, Nick's partnering with me on the masterclass for project management there. John is very, very heavily involved with Lloyd and all the land sourcing and planning side of it. So yeah, look, this is a very big development opportunity for you guys to pick up this information this afternoon. So stay tuned in for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to follow us on any social media, we've got over about 130 videos on the YouTube channel. So probably the best place to go to sort of watch what we do and how we do things. And then the Property Developers Secrets Facebook group, which I know a lot of you are on. So appreciate you helping and supporting that as well. But talking about helping and supporting, again, this is for the NHS. This whole 3 days that Alice and Josh have put on is for raising money for the NHS. So if you go to bit.ly/help the NHS, you can go there and donate. And I think I did have a quick look while Andy was talking. I think we've done £250-300 extra while we've been on, which is great. If we can do that for every speaker, then you're more than going to be, well, you're going to cover the 10 grand more than straight away, really. So you make sure you keep donating. Obviously, this is a great cause we're doing it for, and we're helping to help save lives as well. So, any other questions that you've seen, Alice, that you want to ask or have come in?
I think the main one is, I mean, quite a few people have actually asked about funding, and obviously you guys do use finance. You actually use me for the finance, so tiny plug there for what I do. But I think the most important thing with funding is to speak to people that can help you, regardless of who it is. I think you guys preach about the funding and always using a broker, and I do think that is incredibly important, actually. But yeah, I think other than that, you guys have answered every question, and it's been incredibly inspiring. Obviously, to see what you two are doing, and massive thanks to helping us out, to helping the NHS out, and really looking forward to kind of getting involved on Sunday, of course. And thank you both again.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, again, just to sort of thank everyone for listening, for keeping it on the presentation. I know we had a bit of a blip in between where the internet crashed, but yeah, we're back up and running. So make sure you keep supporting these guys, keep watching the videos. I've had it on all day, so I'm going to keep it on all day as well. I know you've got Arthur Kemp up next, which he's great in kind of what he does, and I know a lot of people that use him. And then you've got Nick and John and the rest of the guys this afternoon. So thank you very much. If anyone wants to chat, we'll stay in the chat room for a little bit, answer any questions. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you both.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
And I think everybody that's listening, if anything like that happens again, I think these guys are just so big, they literally broke Facebook. But if that happens again, keep an eye out on the Property Conference Facebook page, because we'll instantly repost another live. So we'll repost another channel. And also keep an eye, if you're watching through YouTube, keep an eye on Joshua's YouTube channel, as we will instantly post another live video onto there. So just to avoid it happening again, if it happens, worst case, just keep an eye out, keep on the Facebook page, keep on the YouTube page, and we will repost the link. Now I'm handing back over to Joshua, who is going to introduce you to Arthur Kemp. So thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for offering to stay in the chat, Andy and Lloyd, to answer any further questions you may have.